In this reflection, I would like to go to Philip Wheelwright's book on Aristotle, and in particular I'm looking at Wheelwright's translation of one of Aristotle's books, De Anima, or Psychology. And in this book, particularly the first two chapters of the book, Aristotle discusses the notion of the soul, or psyche. And we see that the soul is a very complex entity, and I want to explore that in some detail because it's the animating force, in a Greek sense, of living things. Wheelwright notes that Aristotle claimed that we are justified in ranking psychology, or the study of the soul or psyche, among the first of our interests because a knowledge of this subject contributes greatly to the general discovery of truth, especially in the domain of nature, for the soul is the moving principle of all animal life. Aristotle's aim was to discover and understand the first nature and essence of the soul, and next its various properties, some of which were held to be attributes peculiar to the soul itself, and others belonging to the whole animal by virtue of the soul's presence in it. Aristotle claimed that to arrive at any trustworthy understanding of the soul is especially difficult because we are faced with the problem of trying to discover a thing's essential nature. And that means what it really is. According to Aristotle, there's a certain type of entity to which we may give the name thing. And by this word we may mean either matter or shape or essential form by which we distinguish this thing from that thing, or the whole which comprises both of these aspects. By matter, Aristotle means potentiality, and by form he means actuality. Aristotle goes on to say that some natural bodies possess life and others do not. Life he defines as the power of self-nourishment and of growth and decay. Accordingly, every natural body possessing life must be not only a specific thing, but one comprising both matter and form, potentiality and actuality. But, Aristotle cautions, because body possesses a certain attribute, namely life, it is not on that account to be identified with the soul, for body is not itself an attribute, but simply the subject and the material basis of attributes. Soul, therefore, must be a specific thing in the sense that it is the form of a natural body endowed with the capacity for life. Specific thinghood, in this sense, is actuality, and soul, therefore, is the actuality of the body. The soul, then, may be defined as the initial actuality of a natural body endowed with the capacity for life. Aristotle adds, if we require a general definition applicable to every type of soul, including plants and the parts of plants, then we may define the soul as the initial actuality of a natural body possessing organs. So, what is a soul? Well, Aristotle claims it is the essential whatness of a thing in the sense of its defining meaning, the essential and enduring character of a body possessing a capacity for life. The soul is ascribed only to a particular kind of natural body which has within itself the power of producing movement and rest. For example, if the eye were an independent organism, sight would be its soul, for it is in terms of sight that the essential whatness of the eye can be defined. So what differentiates the animate from the inanimate is the possession of life. But the word life connotes several meanings. For example, intelligence, sentience, spatial movement and rest, the processes of nutrition, growth and decay. If life is in any of these senses present in a thing, then we call that thing alive. Of the powers of soul just enumerated, some organisms possess all, others some, and still others only one. Plants, for example, according to Aristotle, have only the faculty of nutrition. All animals, on the other hand, possess at least one sense, namely touch. Possession of sense implies both the capacity for pleasure and pain, and the existence of pleasure and painful objects. And these in turn imply desire, since desire is a propensity for what is pleasurable. Hunger and thirst are examples of desire. It is important to note, according to Aristotle, that none of the other senses exists without the sense of touch. Touch, however, can exist without the others. In addition, the sentient faculty never exists without the nutritive, but the nutritive may exist without the sentient, as in the case of plants. Finally, there is a small fraction of living things that possess understanding and reasoning power. All mortal beings that possess reasoning power possess also the faculties of soul, but not all those with other faculties possess the power to reason. Some must live by the power of imagination alone, and some lack even that. The nutritive aspect of soul belongs to all living things, being at once the most primitive and most universal of the soul's several faculties, and the condition of life for all creatures. The functions of this aspect are reproduction and the assimilation of food. Reproduction, of course, is the most natural of functions in organisms. According to Aristotle, creatures produce others of their kind, animals producing animals and plants producing plants. But since mortal things cannot partake continuously in the eternal and the divine, they partake of eternity and divinity in the one way that is open to them, and they do this with unequal success, achieving immortality not in themselves, but vicariously through their offspring, through which distinct individuals are one with their kind. To summarize, then, the soul is the determining factor in three respects, according to Aristotle: as the originator of motion, as the end or ideal guide of conduct, and as the essential nature of a living body. In living things, the soul is the determining principle of their lives. The soul is actuality, and actuality may be considered the essential meaning or the logos of whatever exists in a potential state. Aristotle believed that nature, like mind, acts with reference to a purpose, or telos, and this purpose is its end. Every physical part of a living body, whether plant or animal, is the soul's instrument. Finally, the soul is also the cause of an organism's movements from place to place, although not all organisms, to be sure, have the power of such movement. Finally, all qualitative change and growth are caused by the soul.